Hello and welcome to everybody listening in. This is our second live Q&A session for EXARC's online portion of the 2022 ICOM Prague, a Sustainable Revolution for Open Air Museums conference. So our first question is for Ulla and says, are you further considering the remarks that the children left behind in a future project, and is something planned for the future?
Thank you for the question. I know for the project at the museum where the Viking bridge was built, they have considered new additions to the other project, wanting to add to the environment and the setting for both the Viking village and the local museum. They currently have the volunteer project still running, but for school kids, there should probably be something in the years to come. I know the Viking village wanted to make a staff church, which is kind of related to the Viking age that the bridge also have.
That sounds cool. Thanks. Our next question is for Claus. You're doing flax as your seed next year. Why have you chosen flax? And are you having similar issues to Anita in sourcing good flax seeds for the next year in the field?
Thanks for this question. The thing with flax is that we are able to actually enter a new stage, so to speak, when it comes to processing and involving especially many EXARC members. When I think about so many members working with flax, processing flax, so it was easy to widen the circle, to widen the community of people involved there, because there's also this great development around the world to once more work more with linen. And it is great researchers like Anita you then find and can work with. Actually, we do have some challenges with getting old varieties of seeds. We already started talking and networking to get the right numbers. Also, if you're actually a farmer and you want to cultivate a field of flax, then you need more than what you get from a gene bank, meaning 20 seeds. So it either takes a couple of years to repeat the process of growing flax and get more seeds out of it every year, or you find an old heritage breed that can provide you with the seeds you need. But it's definitely a field with a lot of development chances, and we're optimistic that we have chosen flax for this upcoming year.
That's really exciting. Do you have a question, Ulla? Would you like to ask it?
Yes, because I was very excited about the Mudhif project and the whole thing that they also included school children. That was kind of what my project also had in it. But with the Mudhif, you took it down and had ceremonies with it. How long can such a structure actually remain standing?
Thank you so much for this question. Actually, what we have in southern Iraq, this kind of structure could be for 5 to 10 years. With some renovation, every year they check it out. They need to add something here missing. But in Philadelphia, because we are building for a completely different environment, in southern Iraq is hot and humid. Here we have cold and we have also snow. That's why we are able to have it for 1 year. But the great news is we are now in discussion with a few institutions in some other states. Some of them is in hot state in Houston and Texas. They want to build one in that state.
I'm glad you asked, because I was also going to ask a very similar question. That sounds really, really cool. I really hope that goes ahead.
Yeah, can I just attach a question to that? When I was at uni, I was participating in building a furnace for Roman glass, and we purposefully built one for decay. Would that be an option for the Mudhif as well? Like seeing how time, especially now with all the climate change that we have, how that structure basically is decaying. I know it's horrible to watch, but basically to do it as an experiment to see how it falls down.
There is something very important. Maybe I missed to mention in my presentation, because the material itself, the reeds, people believe it's invasive material in the United States. It's just natural materials in Europe, maybe in southern Iraq. But here people believe that we need to get rid of it. It's not useful at all. So we presented in our project, we talked something about environment and how we can make something like outdoor and indoor at the same time. You are being nature all the time.
So basically, if it could have been a project to see it fall down on purpose, not tearing it down, but let nature take its course and then document that, would that be helpful for the future?
That's also great, because we just care about the people. We don't want to leave it like that. Maybe it's because of the wind, because of the storm, To be honest, we survived the hurricane last year. I believe that there is no more a Mudhif, but the next day I've been there. I found some panels actually just have broken, but we continue our program. So that's another point. And all the time we have insurance for our project because we care about the people. We not allow them to go inside if it's not possible. And the other thing also, when we took it down, people start to suggest, they say, we are unable to just take it down because we love the space. So let's take it down, but we need another process to respect the material. That's why we did something like a grave. We put the materials in the same place. So we just do the burial process for that material at the same place. But it could be maybe for 2-3 years more if we just leave it like that. But because we're concerned about people, some kids, maybe someone, we don't want anyone to be injured or something. That's why we just took it down ourselves, even it's so hard for us.
Thank you. Our next question is for Jess. Is the story with the Priory Mouse available somewhere, or does it belong to the St. Nicholas Priory?
That's a very good question. Well, it belongs to me at the moment. I'm working on what to do with it. Other people in Exeter have asked if I could visit their heritage sites along with the mouse. But at the moment, I have to admit, it's fairly recent. I've not done anything with it yet, but I would very much like to go a bit further with it. I think storytelling is so important, especially in museums which are more traditional in their approach, and they are sadly not open air. I've been fascinated to listen to presentations. They've been absolutely amazing. So just thank you, everybody. And it's interesting to see the connections between the kinds of ways you can approach sustainability in open air museums, where you have this immersive experience. In my experience, it's mostly in indoor gallery settings, so it's a rather different challenge, but you can use the same themes. You can talk about food or weather or water or technology using actual objects, but it's a very different thing. So I feel I've learned a lot, and I would like to apply my storytelling to maybe outdoor settings. But the short answer is I haven't done anything with it yet, but I would be very, very happy to make it available to anybody and to write some more.
You saying the connections between things has reminded me of Ed watching your presentation. It was such an engaging presentation, and you showing how easy it can be to record and preserve these kind of historical skills. This is something that's coming up again and again with the A Year in the Field project, and also the Retold project that's also being done by EXARC. Do you think you could comment a little bit about the growing trend of digitalization in a sustainable way?
This right here can preserve everything. It's so simple. And that really was my point, is that we don't have to overcomplicate this. The sustainability of these historic skills is as easy as that. Okay, show me how you cut that tobacco plant, or how did you tie that knot on the Phragmites? It's all not that hard, is my point. And if we do this, we spontaneously do this, if we integrate this into the ways of doing things, then it becomes easy. Just do it, was my point.
Oh, that's a really nice point. I think sometimes when you think of video and things like that, you think you need a big camera and you need a microphone and things like that. But it is really nice to see just how easy it is.
And they're small. They're only 3 to 5 minutes. You focus very, very closely. And then you do another one that connects to that one, you see.
We've got a couple of questions from our speakers. Claus, would you like to ask your question first?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I wanted to comment on what Ed said and think that it has also something to do with raising awareness. And this paper Ed showed that it is easy on one side to make these skill clips, but you have to be aware that you have to free time to do so. This is really key. We're also involved in what we do and we just forget about that. But being remembered about the fact that it's easy, you might find an intern or you might just find your hand and record what you're doing. So this is really important work, Ed. Thank you.
Thanks, Claus. Ulla, you had your hand up. Do you also have a question?
Yes, I have a question for Kate, and I just want to say thank you, Kate, for a lovely presentation. I really enjoyed the part where you incorporated the 17 goals. How do you see museums interact with the goals more and also get the kids and people to enjoy them doing it when they are visiting the open air museums?
Yeah, what I was looking at is I think museums are already meeting a lot of that goals, like the work you're doing with kids, for example, bringing them in that way. That's already helping them to see the world in a different way than they might do if they weren't involved in that process. think just being involved in those projects really helps people to have sort of a new take on the world and can help people sort of broaden their horizons a bit, make people more tolerant, give people connections with things, people and experiences that are outside their normal space. And I think that that's really powerful for children, especially because making those connections with an environment, with a topic they might not otherwise encounter, is doing exactly that. It's working on that human side of sustainability. So I think that those kinds of engagement projects are just fantastic, even without any sort of intentional design around them. They're already doing exactly that. So I think it would be a case of just looking at the big picture of what your goals are. Like, we want to increase sort of environmental awareness, or we want to increase people's thinking about working conditions across the world, whatever it is, and just think, how could I weave that in a little bit? Because I think it needs to be kind of subtle. It doesn't need to be, here's our agenda for the day and let's hammer these points home. I think just having a little bit of going into it thinking, among all the other things you're thinking about with the project, but thinking, is there in the end goal, what do we want children or people to remember? What do we want them to come away with thinking, oh, I hadn't thought of it like that before? So I think it can be sort of little tweaks, if that makes sense.
Thanks, Kate. That was a really nice answer. Julia, would you like to go ahead?
Yes, hello and good evening. When listening to the skill clip, going back now again to the last question, I really, really enjoyed that. And as Phoebe already said, it ties in with the Retold project, because one part of it is documenting crafts and activities and action. So that's really great. And what I really liked about the video also is that you emphasized that it can never basically stop the actual transferal skills in practice. It can't subsidize it. So I think that's very important. But it's a great tool because it is so variable in its use, for publicity, for education. And can I ask a question for Lara? I was wondering if you've got an example of a citizen science project in an archaeological open air museum, like a proper formally set up citizen science project, or is there at the moment nothing there yet?
No, currently, if you've seen the presentation, there is this 15% of research which is already being performed together with the public. So potentially it is already there. I think there is just the protocol that is missing. We've seen so many participatory forms of research today in all the presentations that we've seen in the conference, by the way. So it is just the structure that is missing. I think it's already there, but it's just the label citizen science that needs to be kind of embedded into the activities. And it's not actually going to change, I think, much of what is already happening in open air archaeological museums. Is just going to give it a little bit of twist in the scientific literacy acquisition, so the goal for education specifically.
Thank you both. We've got one last question from Ulla.
I have one question for Francis in terms of educational programs and rebuilding the centre and projects like that. Have you considered something like school projects where they contribute, like the ATC, Ancient Technology Centre?
Yeah, very much so. We started about a year ago. Well, actually, it was during lockdown. We started experimenting with offering immersive experiences for schools. I know there's this idea of sort of doing outreach and going out to schools, but actually what we're trying to do is turn this around, and we're now doing in-reach. So we're trying to bring everybody in, but we're doing that in the form of really fully immersive experiences so that the school can enjoy themselves safely, closing the site to other regular visitors so that that doesn't impact on a regular visit, because sometimes you can find that there is a clash and people's enjoyment is affected, compromised. Yes, we absolutely do want to work with our schools, offering them the opportunity to sort of get involved with the building of the archaeological reconstructions at the new centre. And although we are being led by the experimental archaeologists and the ancient building experts who lecture, these are the people who are going to be sort of telling us what we need to do. What we're actually saying is that although our archaeological buildings are going to be expert led, they're going to be community built. So there's this idea that everybody gets involved with building them. And one sort of, if you like, catchphrase that we used to sway some of the funders was that we said that we wanted 1,000 fingerprints and 1,000 voices recorded, captured in everything that we do at the new centre. So there is this real sense of sort of fully engaging with communities. I think that's something that it was Kate that sort of tapped on this, that sustainability is all encompassing. It's so multifaceted, and it is about human sustainability and economic and social sustainability, about sustaining your communities, making sure that they're involved as much as it is about the environment. Once you've got all four of these in place, they will naturally then support each other. It's like the greater thing is bigger than the sum of its parts, really. So I think that's what sustainability is leading to. So very much yes with the schools. And we do have a good catchment area of schools. The problem with schools, I don't know about the rest of the world, but in the UK, they have had their budgets cut in terms of being able to get that transportation booked. So if you're in a rural area, they've got to book a coach to bring the children out to you. They want to stay for the whole day. A 1 hour visit is no good because it completely messes up the school day. So you're taking an entire class out for the whole day. Then there's that cost involved with the coaches. Getting our schools engaged again in museums since the problems of the past few years is a real challenge. And we do need to think about how we're going to do that globally, collectively.
Thanks for that. That was a really interesting question, a really interesting answer.